Republicans are talking tough on terror, and that's hardly surprising in the current environment. This was completely and explicitly on display at the Las Vegas debate. I mean, everyone from Senator Ted Cruz talking about pounding the sand, pounding ISIS until the sand glows in the dark. Chris Christie wants a no-fly zone in Syria and would shoot down Russian planes if Vladimir Putin's Air Force were to violate that. Just about everybody understands that the American people are afraid, and they have to talk about taking the fight to ISIS, a more aggressive strategy against terrorism in the wake of the Paris attacks and, of course, the massacre in San Bernardino. But there is this other sentiment in the country, and until recently was probably the dominant sentiment, and that is a lot of people, a lot of Americans are tired of war. And it sounds great. It's great applause lines to talk about how you're going to be really tough. But how many ground troops do these candidates plan to send? Is there a danger of being sucked into yet another protracted quagmire of a Middle East war after Afghanistan and Iraq? Hillary Clinton has been warning about that as she tries to counter some of the rhetoric from the Republican side. So Rand Paul was well positioned earlier because he was the one who talked about the dangers of being overextended or finding a military solution for every problem in the Middle East. And Donald Trump spent a lot of time on the campaign trail bragging about the fact that he had opposed the original Iraq invasion by George W. Bush. So it's kind of a balancing act because on the one hand, if you overemphasize the notion that we have to be cautious and that more troops on the ground, more boots on the ground is not always the answer. And, it gets complicated. You have to have Sunni allies. And if America leads the way, then that can further alienate some of the Arab populations in these countries. And at the same time, a lot of people right now don't want to hear about the complexities. They want a projection of strength. And that's what all the Republican presidential candidates are trying to do right now. But if one of them wins, and they win on a very aggressive platform of taking the fight to the terrorists, which we all support in theory, how do you then translate that into action? And could that conflict with this other instinct that many Americans have, which is we've been through 10 years, Afghanistan and Iraq, and we don't probably want another long-term military presence in the Middle East. This is why running for president is not easy, folks. And the media need to ask these questions of all the candidates, how they would do the balancing act, what specifically they would do other than just talking tough.